Hello everybody, this is the iFan channel here. Over here is the HTC HD2, which was actually released all the way in 2009. And today I'm actually going to review the HTC HD2 to see how it stacks up today. Now this is of course a retro review, but even though this phone is one of the best phones in 2009, with its vastly superior specs even compared to the iPhone 3GS, it has one major hurdle, and that is Windows Mobile 6.5. Yes, not even Windows Phone, this is actually Windows Mobile 6.5, which is kind of on its way out in 2009, because in 2010 Windows Phone 7 was actually released. But over here is Windows Mobile 6.5 over here. So you do have the home screen with the camera, the marketplace, and YouTube. Now the marketplace and YouTube both don't work anymore. Now let me show you guys the marketplace. Yep, Windows Marketplace for mobile cannot connect. So this has been offline, similar to the Windows Phone Store, and YouTube is also offline as well. So unfortunately you cannot use YouTube. But over here is the Internet Explorer, and Internet Explorer, I do believe this is actually IE7, I'm not really sure. Comment down below if it is something different, but unfortunately this would not work. I tried Google and it still did not work at all. As you can see, yes, action is cancelled. I don't really believe you could do any online stuff on this except for Opera. If you go on Windows Live, it is also offline. And going to footprints, I'm not really sure what that is. But all the footprints you could actually see: Melion Park in Singapore, something in Thailand, the Wat, Petronet Twin Towers, and Ben Thanh Market. Yes, I've actually visited Ben Thanh Market, and I was actually born in Vietnam. However, despite the fact many online services have shut down, Office Mobile still works. As you can see, this is actually Word Mobile, and let me show you guys all the apps: Excel, OneNote, PowerPoint, and stuff. Yes, I do believe they still work. But over here is Outlook, which I do believe is offline. And over here are some of the contacts. Unfortunately, there are actually no contacts at this time. But Bing, ironically, does not work. Facebook and Twitter does not work anymore. And navigation, unfortunately, does not work. As you can see, this is Google Maps over here. And it would actually say offline. In fact, I even have HTC One M7, of which Google Maps actually failed, even on that phone, let alone on this. Okay guys, over here are the Wi-Fi settings. I'm actually going to select my Wi-Fi network to see if I could actually connect. And over here is actually the back button. And you could also turn on Bluetooth as well and change the phone settings. But unfortunately, you cannot make calls on this phone because all of the US carriers have actually disbanded 3G support due to the fact 3G has essentially shut down as of this year. So unfortunately, if you want to make any calls, you cannot call on this phone. But if you want to export this phone to, say, Asia or Europe, you might be able to, because 2G is still supported in many European and Asian countries. Okay guys, after having to restart the whole phone to actually be able to enable Wi-Fi, I finally loaded up Opera, and over here is google.com. You could actually search some things. Unfortunately, it is quite small, the font and stuff, so it is kind of hard and unintuitive. But this is actually a capacitive touchscreen, not a resistive one, so I'm actually going to search for some things. I'm not even sure. Okay, whatever. Bunch of Chinese characters. And over here you could actually get some search results and even load up some images. Now this ends up being Harry Potter somehow, I don't even know how. But why not, let's go home. And lastly, over here is the music. Unfortunately, this phone only comes with half a gigabyte of internal storage, which does mean you do need an SD card. Luckily, this phone does support up to 32 gigs of micro SD expansion. Definitely a max volume, but over here is how the sound is like. This is one of the sample songs I was given. And lastly, this is actually the home screen, so why not? Let's go over the specs, shall we? Now, this phone was actually released on the 5th of November of 2009, so about 15 years, 2 days old to this day. And let me show you guys the date for more confirmation. Yep. and it actually came with half a gig of internal storage, which is quite pitiful in today's standards and even by the standards of that time. But in reality, many Android and Windows mobile devices only come with that much storage. The iPhones, however, do come with 8 or 16 or even 32 gigs of storage. But what's even more of a disadvantage is this phone actually uses Windows Mobile 6.5 as its default operating system, which is kind of on its way out because Windows Phone 7 was actually released in 2010, which is actually the year after. And unfortunately, this phone does not officially support Windows Phone 7, but developers, which are independent developers, actually try to create like versions of Windows Phone and even Android just for this phone, yes. In fact, this phone could actually support up to Nougat from 2016, which is actually 7 years later. That's virtually the same OS as what the S6 actually ran as its most recent. I do believe so, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe the most recent version of Android, the S6, could actually officially run is actually Nougat. Now this phone does have a 4.3 inch 480 by 800 TFT display with a pixel density of 217 pixels per inch, of which, even though it is very small compared to today's phones, it is very big, especially compared with the 3GS, which is the phone this phone is stacked against. As you can see, even the bezels are actually less and much thinner. We're actually more pronounced on the top. As you can see, a 4.3 inch versus like 3.5 inch. And this phone is also very powerful with a Qualcomm Snapdragon S1 single core 1 GHz with an Adreno 200 GPU and either 448 or 576 megs of RAM depending on the market. In the US, it is definitely the latter. You could actually load more apps with more RAM in the US, but in other countries, it is kind of limited, unfortunately. And some of the buttons, you could actually hold the call button over here to get into the phone. Unfortunately, I cannot really insert a SIM card because of the 3G shutdown. Over here is the home button, and this is actually the start menu. And there is actually a task manager. Yes. Oddly enough, you could actually end task and end task, kind of like on Windows, and kind of like multitasking sort of on like iPhones. But iPhones don't really have multitasking at this time, so this is kind of revolutionary. And here's the menu. You could also adjust the wallpaper, which is much better than that of the iPhone at the time, because many iPhones have like black as the home screen wallpaper, and they do have a lock screen wallpaper, however, which is kind of at least half decent. But here is the stop button, and over here is the back button. And if you want to hang up, then press this button. And this button also puts the phone to sleep as well. And not only does it put the phone to sleep, it actually wakes up the phone. It kind of acts like the power button. And if you want to power the phone off, then also hold this button. Yes, the hang up button. And over here are the volume buttons. And this is actually power off over here, which is kind of quirky. Unlike many modern phones where there's a dedicated power button instead of a hang up button. Now I actually found this like when I actually bought the phone. In fact, I did not even know about this until actually bought this phone and played it around for a few days. I'm not even joking. That's how confusing this is and unintuitive in today's standards, because we all know the power button. Many of the iPhones have it. Even the original iPhone has a power button. But yes, as you can see, and this is what the lock screen looks like. Yep, slide and stuff. Unfortunately, the date is wrong, and I'm not really bothered to change because I only use this phone for maybe a few hours max per year. This phone does have a removable battery, and let me take it out. And this is actually metal, unlike other removable batteries, of which many of the plates are actually plastic. This is actually metal. Yes, metal. HTC is always known for quality materials, and this is no exception. And this phone does have a 1300 milliamp hour battery, which, even though it is bad in today's standards, it is quite decent by the standards of the time. And in the top and bottom, you would actually notice a rubbery material. And as you can see, this phone does have a 5 megapixel camera with VGA video recording and LED flash. Now VGA is actually 480p, and over here is actually the SIM card slot, and over there I believe is the micro SD. Actually, over here is a micro SD card, and as you can see, this phone is quite neat. There is actually a headphone jack as well as the micro USB connector, and this phone does support Wi-Fi, BG, and Bluetooth 2.1. So why not? I'm actually going to test the camera sample. You guys have already seen a camera sample and video sample, so why not? Here's a conclusion. Even though this phone is quite pathetic in today's standards and does not really work anymore, it's more like a toy, kind of like some of the older iPhones. In fact, if you were to compare in 15 years ago, then this phone is definitely the top king, even compared to the iPhone it is running against, which is actually quite remarkable. But in fact, even though it is king, unfortunately the OS, Windows Mobile, does hamper the phone a bit. But in reality, this phone is quite a decent buy at the time, if you could actually install Android or Windows Mobile, actually Windows Phone 7. So thank you guys for watching. Please give a big thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and I'm gonna see you guys soon.